One, we are live now.
So welcome again, all of you. Uh, students have started coming in. We have around 15 students. So as we'll be waiting for at least 100 students to join in. So I'll introduce you to the guest, very special guest that we have today, and the agenda of or the topic of today's session. But we'll wait for all the students to join in because it is just 10:30, and the students would be coming in from their first lecture. Students would be attending their first lecture, and they'll be shifting on to this Zoom ID within next 2-3 minutes, I suppose. We have around 20 students that have already joined in, and I can just check the list of participants. So we have MBA 3 students coming in. Their first lecture would be already over. Now the number is increasing very fast. It's already 35, 40. Already 40 students have joined in. So we are waiting for just 60 more students, and then we can start up with this session. So I'll introduce regarding the today's agenda, as well as we have a very special guest today. Special because he's from our first batch, 1997, 1999. He's our alumni, proud alumni of APJ Institute of Management, the very first batch of APJ. So I'll be briefing once we are able to have that 100 mark. 45 students are there. So meanwhile, I hope all the students have already voted for our team regarding that business plan competition that we have posted it on LinkedIn as well as Facebook. So you can go to our Facebook page and check the website and check the team ID code. So we need every student to vote for them. It is a very proud moment that our students has reached this particular level. They are competing with the world renowned institutions. So you can go there and vote for our team. That is the theme of the team is here and you. The business plan is here and you, and it would be reflecting against IKG Punjab Technical University. So you can go to that particular website. I think it is menti.com, and you can fill up the code and vote for our team. Already many of the students have already voted in. They were sending me the LinkedIn, or they were sending me the request from the LinkedIn. So I suppose meantime we get the attendance of 200. I would request all the students to vote for our team. So we have around 70 students now, and we'll wait for another 30 students to join in. Then I will start up with the session. So we have a very special guest today. Again, I'm very excited to say this because he's our 1997 batch alumni, or he has done MBA from this very campus in 1997, the very first batch of APJ. So we have around 74 now. It's 10:33. So I suppose in next 1 minute, we'll be touching that 100 mark. So meantime, all the guests, all the students and all the faculty members who have joined in, I suppose all the faculty members have already voted for our team. I'm saying this because the last date is 12th. Last date is tomorrow. So we have to vote today only, so that we can make our team win the People's Choice Award. And we are competing against the very best institutions of the world. We are not competing against the institutions from Jalandhar. We are competing against the institutions from the very best or the top institutions from the world. We have Georgia Institute of Technology there. We have IIT. We have University of Toronto there. So if you will visit that particular site, you will be able to see all the list of the institutions that we are competing against. So we need every student to vote for our team, because your vote will make our team win. Your vote will make APJ win, or in this particular case, your vote will make India win. So if somebody from Canada is winning this competition, so that means India has lost the competition. So we will vote for APJ and we will vote for India. It is India versus Canada and USA. So we have 85 students now. So I'll just wait for another 20 seconds. There's 87 students now. I suppose we should start up with this session. Meantime, I would finish up. We'll reach that 100 mark. So welcome all of the students and faculty members. Welcome again for this very special guest that we have arranged it for today. This is our 17th virtual expert talk, and we have a very, very special guest. Special because he is our first batch alumni, first batch of MBA in 1997. He is alumni of our first batch, Mr. Ashwini Tiwari. He is a certified financial planner, and he is also the founder of WealthMate, his financial planning company. And we are very proud to say that he is, again, I am repeating it, he is from our first batch, because the students are still joining in. And thank you so much, Ashwini sir, for accepting our invitation to guide our students on this very relevant topic. And I would, okay, we have now 95, right? So I would now read the profile of Mr. Ashwini Tiwari. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. And I would like to brief all the audience that Mr. Ashwini Tiwari is a certified financial planner from Financial Planning Standards Board Limited, Denver, USA, and a chartered market technician, CMT, from CMT Association, New York, USA. He has been into the field of financial service since 2003, and he is also the founder of WealthMate, a financial services brand. He holds the master's in business administration, of course, from APJ Institute of Management, from the very first batch, 1997 to 1999. He is a fine master in chess and is currently a member of Chess Selection Committee for All India Chess Federation, and has represented the country in many international chess events. So we are very thankful for this, sir. You are taking time out of your busy schedule and guiding our students on this very, very relevant topic, the investing lessons for pandemic times. So I would now request Dr. Rajesh Bagawa, Director, sir, kindly bless us with 2-3 minutes of your talk, sir.
Thank you so much, Kamal. Thank you so much. Really happy to see Ashwini on this platform. So through the virtual mode, we are meeting for the second time. Previously, we met in our online Zoom alumni meet. And really happy to see Ashwini is the founder, student of our APJ Institute of Management and Engineering. And at that time, it was the APJ Institute of Management, the first one institute to come into existence under the aegis of APJ Education Society, affiliated with the IKG Punjab Technical University. So why I am so glad, reason being I am a teacher of accounting and finance, and Ashwini Tiwari now, he has marked a niche in the financial sector by having the lot of certification as discussed by Mr. Kamal. And apart from the financial market, the financial management or the financial services area, he is having very good command over the chess, and he has represented India in number of competitions. And from the Facebook profile, I have come across number of times about the chess tournament he is participating, and he is even conducting various chess competitions. So Ashwini, welcome on behalf of all of our faculty members, from students as well as the management of APJ Education Society. Really happy to see you. Further, I think the request being made by Kamal that our business plan competition being the IKG PTU representing India, and the team comprises of 3 students of APJ Institute of Management and Engineering, and it is really a proud moment. So my request to all the attendees, ki support your 3 students, Smiley Sharma, Urvashi, and I think the third name I am forgetting, Mr. Dutt, Paramjeet. Mr. Paramjeet. So my request to all the attendees, all the students, so please vote in support of our B-Plan competition. Already they have won around 7-8 competitions with the same plan, and definitely now I think Kamal was discussing University of Toronto, it is University of Denver, then St. George State University, and then from India it is IKG Punjab Technical University, and from Bangalore, one university, Christ University, is also participating, and Portland State University. So around 6-7 countries they are competing under this business plan competition. So we wish all the best to our team. Our team is on behalf of IKG Punjab Technical University representing India in USA. So my best wishes to all the members. So Ashwini, happy to share. Yesterday, since we have posted our Facebook that Ashwini is going to deliver a lecture on investing times during this pandemic time period, I have received around 8-9 messages. Sir, kindly provide the contact number of Ashwini. And today I received a call from Mr. Ehsanullah, who is President Jalandhar Management Association. So kindly provide me the contact number. And I think he mentioned in a comment where he asked your contact number, but I stated that I will get a permission from Ashwini, only then I will share. So
you don't need a permission.
now it is up to you to give me permission so that I can share your contact number to the 7-8 people. So thank you so much for joining, Ashwini, and I think definitely these will be the memorable moments for APJ as well as for all the students those are attending. So way back you are reminding me the nostalgic moments from 97 to 99. Really, we are glad to see you. Thank you so much, Ashwini.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Rajesh Baga, for your really kind words. It's really my honor to be part of this presentation today, and a really heartfelt gratitude to all of you. And also, I've just learned from you about the business plan competition where my institute is participating. I would really encourage, whatever it makes, please do win us. You know, it's another feather in the cap. You know, so many APJ Institute, management institutions have won the competitions across the world. So I would be really grateful if all effort can be made to succeed in that as well. Well, I would like to thank all the faculty members as well, apart from Dr. Baga, who is definitely who has mentioned the key word nostalgic. You know, it takes me back almost 22 years back to the institution when, you know, I just remember when Dr. Rajesh Baga was delivering his lectures to me and in the class, and it was like a classroom preaching. And it's just my, I would say, great fortune that today I am in front of all of you to deliver one of such lectures. Really thankful to you, sir. And I would also like to thank faculty members, Mr. Rajneesh Arya, Mr. Avneet Deora, Ma'am Kulwant Kaur, Mr. Rajan Chaudhary, and thanks, Kaval, for being part of this moderation, and really grateful to the Institute. So with your permission, you know, if we are ready to move with the presentation, you know, please let me know and we can begin with it.
Yes, sir, we can start. I think we have around 100 participants now.
All right. So first of all, good morning to you all. I hope, you know, I have not intervened in your early morning schedule. I learned that you have another class which you have just attended. So it makes me more comfortable that mine is not the first class. So, so we will begin, you know, I will just put up, you know, what format we are going to follow is that I'm going to put up a presentation, a very small, you know, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of slides, just key things. And I think whatever questions you have, you can always put in chat or Q&A, and you know, Kanwar will moderate, and you know, will whatever questions we are left with at the end of the presentation, we will of course take the questions after the presentation. So whatever questions are there, we'll try to answer all of them, at the end of it. I'll just just give me a moment. I will just put up my presentation. Mr. Kanwal, I hope it's visible right now.
Sir, right now it is not visible. I think the screen is shared. Kanwal, please
Yeah,
check.
just a moment. Yeah, just a moment. Yeah, just a moment.
Yes, sir. Now it is
Okay.
visible.
All right. Okay. So, when I was contacted by the institute, I think about speaking about to the all the MBA students, BBA, or the first batch or second batch students of the institute. I had a challenge, not a big challenge, to choose from what are the topics which are relevant as of today. I think pandemic or corona is a a reality which has come to all of us in no time. Actually, in less than 6 months, we are facing a pandemic of unprecedented scale. I think I thought of choosing this particular topic, which should also help all of you. I think if you just pay attention in next 30 minutes or 35 minutes, whatever time I'm going to take to go through this, I think it should make a meaningful difference to your mindsets. In terms of what should investing be around, and even general lessons for life. I think there are so many learnings which have come over last 3-6 months, which over last many decades we were even not aware of. So we'll just begin investing lessons for the pandemic times. So here are the key learnings. So broadly, I have classified this presentation into 8 key points, 8 key learnings. I will take those key points, which I think there are, of course, many learnings which are possible, but I think these are the most relevant ones, which will be important to all of you, I think, and will be very practical for you to implement in your life. You all are studying today. Many of you, even like, it's relevant for the faculty members, because I think knowledge, the process of learning never stops. So it's for everybody, applies on me and everybody. So it's relevant for everybody, I believe. So the first key learning, which comes 8 lessons of pandemic times. The first learning comes: invest in yourself. First, work to learn, then work to earn. I think I was just reading a book recently, and I came across this line. I think it is mind blowing. I think this is the most key thing I would like to begin with today, because I think most of us get wrong. We believe going to the best institutions, getting the best jobs, or doing the best businesses, making high amount of money, is that the real success? No, I don't think so. I think this pandemic has already made many such people humble, and of course, if you are not humble, this pandemic has blown you off. Simply, biggest of institutions, biggest of businesses are facing unprecedented challenges. So what I mean by investing in yourself, the point is that when you are on a process, you came to this institution, this privileged institution, I would say. If you are studying at APJ, it's itself a privilege. Not many children or students get this opportunity in the lifetime. So the point is that if you are studying at this institution, this is of course one part of that learning cycle. The second thing is that investing in yourself doesn't stop when you have passed from this institution. This is what I realized. I can tell you from my example. 99, I passed out from APJ Institute of Management. Started into basically a business, family business, where I worked about 4 years. But the quest for more learning challenges, took me to another business. You will be surprised. Doing that business, first business was, by any money standards or financial standards, was a failure. I could just break even that business, and virtually for me, if we have to, as a business manager, evaluate, those were it was basically a financially a failure, because it could not work out. But the biggest learning I came out, you'll be surprised, when I completed that business and got out of that business, this is the area where I got into. I did my master's in marketing with a minor in finance. I was never a finance guy when I passed out as a qualification. But in 2003-4, I took up, interest into finance. Thanks to that business, I'll not name that business. I wouldn't like to get into a controversy. It's a renowned company, which virtually now probably doesn't exist. It's one of the big, companies. So the point is that learning process should never stop. You should keep on investing yourself. So what happened was that in 2008, I completed my from Financial Planning Standards Board, my CFP certification. Now, 2008 was when basically, I'm getting into, when all of you get into a situation where you are getting elevated on your careers. Generally, education is not on your mind, and you are just looking at your promotion, success, or business, rewards. Well, I took that challenge, thought, this is going to be my field because this, provides me challenge. So I took that course. And in 2013, again, you'll be surprised, 5 years down the line, I took the CMT charter. So education, you have to keep on investing in yourself. For that matter, I will tell you a golden rule, what you earn in your future, just remember, if 5 to 10% of that, if you are not investing back on yourself, when I say investing in yourself, on your personality development, on your learning, or your education, or your self-development, I think that is the key learning you must remember. And this line beautifully sums up that. First work to learn, then work to earn. I think this is a beautiful line. I think when you are going to get, many of you may get placements, many of you may get decent, good first jobs. But even so, you don't get first good jobs. Just remember that you are there to first learn. Every organization has to spend on you in the initial years when they hire you. So you are actually not an asset to an organization at that point. Rather, organization is getting a liability where they need to train up and fix you up so that you work in that organization. So how can it be very different for yourself? It cannot be. So first work to learn. Whenever you're learning, a good example I can give you, when we passed the 99 batch, I think Dr. Bagga and all the entire team will tell you how hard it would have been for them to find the placements for the batches when the institute was in an early stage. Trust me, many of us, I know a lot of people, who passed, then somehow got into jobs. And eventually today, I can tell you one guy he was an ex-director into Salesforce sitting in USA. So he's a product of this institution. So just remember, if you are on the right learning curve, the earning curve is going to happen. So this is the key lesson I want to fix in your mind, so that before we move to the financial aspect, because then we are going to talk money and other things. I think before money, I think your own self-behavior, your own self-development is the key where we should focus. Now coming to the second, where we actually begin the presentation for my part. So creating an emergency fund and having adequate risk coverage. Now I would say that most of us in this pandemic miss this advice. All these years, all financial planning or all basic, even in a home, a parent tries to keep a 2 to 3 months reserve into a home so that there are no issues in case of an emergency. But there was never an emergency in the past of this scale. And people actually forgot to keep those emergencies. Businesses forgot to keep those emergencies. And trust me, what has happened, it is unprecedented again. Many businesses are not able to sustain it today. A couple of months of lockdown, all expenditures to be borne. I think most businesses, found them completely inadequate to do that. Many households have got into a situation where they did not create an emergency fund. So a thumb rule, please, that when you are working or when you are saving or when you are, whatever you are thinking in your future, please make sure, to start with at least a 6-month emergency fund for yourself. 6 months emergency fund is equivalent to your 6 months of expenses. Simple as that. There's no big mathematics on that. So if you think you have an expenditure of 15,000 rupees a month, keep a lakh in your fixed deposit or a bank account. That's very simple. Is it going to earn you a return? Question is not about the return. I think pandemic has trained us now enough where, a use of an emergency fund is actually the need of the hour, and creating one is the most important. Many businesses have missed that. Trust me, this is a lot of problem. This has created a lot of problem. A basic tool would have let them overcome this lockdown issues. Had companies remember to keep 2-3 months salaries of employees into their bank accounts, or households would have remembered that of a 6 months expense, I think this pandemic, they would have been much better off to take head on, rather than what the current situation for many of them is. Now coming to the having adequate risk coverage, I think when you create an emergency fund, all of you, most of I'm told more than 100 students are participating here, so most of you are very young age. I think buying risk coverage is not a problem at all. When you are younger, don't underestimate it, because it's cheaper. See, it's very logical. Insurance companies are in the business of making money. They charge you higher as you grow older, and mortality rates go higher when you grow older. See, how many young people die statistically? It is only by accident most of them die. Many of the young people who are there, they don't die statistically of a natural death, in younger ages. So the point is, have a term insurance cover, have adequate coverage, have a life insurance. So probably you are smart enough to go to internet, compare the prices at a younger age, buy a long risk, coverage over 20-30 years. The idea is to ensure your life is insured, so that your near ones, dear ones don't face a financial catastrophe when there is an eventuality which comes to you. So that is one part of coverage. Then the second coverage which people realized, I think medical insurance has been a roaring business in the last 6 months, because people were never prepared. See, we are not a socially governed state. We don't have social security benefits coming to us. Most of us are private citizens who are dependent on private incomes and private protections. So we have to cover ourselves for medical issues. So Mediclaim is one important component. Please do dig deep into your households, into your families, and for your own self. Today, it comes cheaper as you are younger. Of course, medical insurance doesn't move with the age criteria, but rather it moves with the criteria on your well-being. But the problem is the delay you do. Later on, if you develop issue, most of the insurance companies, health insurance companies, are going to deny you a coverage. So it's better to have that when it is the right time. So creating an emergency fund, having a life cover in terms of term insurance. Please know investment plans. I'm not here to say any negative words about any insurance companies. Those are other products which require research and further investigation. But a term insurance will solve your purpose, pure risk cover, and simply having a medical coverage will be decent enough for you to provide you a risk coverage. So this covers a basic financial planning or a basic idea for you to lay the foundation of your planning for future. Whenever you come out of this, or even if you start doing it, or this knowledge or information you can start implementing into your own households, I think most of us would be adequately planned. The point is, people miss the bigger picture and overlook this, and this pandemic has really struck badly people who were not prepared and who underestimated. Many times some of the clients ask me, why do I need a term insurance? I don't need it. I'm perfectly okay. Why do I need an emergency fund? I'm getting regular incomes. I think today, if this conversation must have been 6 months old, today they cannot put this question back to me, because I think there is enough evidence today that people and the businesses have been found wanting on emergency funds, and it was nothing but just purely a planning aspect which could have taken care of a lot of issues, social as well as economic issues. So now coming to the third, I think this is the crux of today. If you learn this, trust me, if you learn this, you are going to remember this for your life. So this, if one key takeaway you have to take today, I think learn this key, the key equation of your life. Understand power of compounding. I think, although I don't know, there is a clear evidence, but yes, it is very well said that Einstein used to call power of compounding as the eighth wonder of the world. Well, okay, it's a saying. I'm not saying Einstein actually said that, but okay, this is how it goes. The hearsay that power of compounding is the key which you will need to remember for your lifetime. And if you can remember that, I think it is going to help you with your entire planning of your future. If you remember this equation, I'm going to give you that equation. I'm not going to put you into technicalities. I'm trying to put you into a situation where you can understand the real power of compounding. I just, before this presentation, on a financial calculator, I was just doing a number just to give you an idea what compounding can do. Just to give you an example, 1,000 rupees a month, 1,000 I think is a very nominal amount. Okay, please don't take any recommendations out of it. I am not allowed to give you any recommendations in this webcast. The current law does not allow me to do that, but I'm just quoting this as an example. So just take it as an example for your understanding. The point is, if you save 1,000 rupees a month for, let's say, 20 years, which is about 2.4 lakh rupees, 2.4 lakh rupees, which you save over a 20-year, let's say if you were investing in an asset class which delivers 12% return, you would have a 10 lakh rupees, out of that. That is 4x. 1,000 rupees getting 4,000, becoming 4,000 for you. Now let's increase the compounding period. Just increase it by 5 years. Let's make it 25 years. Now, if we go to 25 years, I think, is there any wild guess you have? Well, that amount, comes to close to 20 lakhs. You'll be shocked. In 5 years, what I did in 20 years is these 5 years have done the same. Well, this is the reality. This is compounding. Now let's put that for 30 years. Okay. Another 5 years, you'll say 5 साल क्या कर सकता है? 5 साल में कितनी power है? और 20 साल या 25 साल या 30 साल में, what is the actual power of compounding? I just want, and I'll come to the equation, and then you will understand how this time can be such a powerful friend for all of you. So on a 30-year basis, this same 1,000 rupees in the same asset class is actually 36 lakhs. Now, question is, at 20 years, you were having 10 lakhs. At 30 years, you're having almost 36 lakhs, 3.x. I think what you did in first 20 years, I think almost 3 times it did in next 10 years. This is called compounding. Just remember, never underestimate compounding. I don't mean to say that you don't need to work hard or learn well. All these things are there, but just remember, if you just rightly sow the seeds, let the tree grow, the fruits over the years, when it matures more, will be way, way higher than whatever effort you have put, or you have imagined, rather, I would say. So I will just take you to that equation, because I will like to make you understand, that particular equation. So we'll just move to that slide first. Okay. Okay. So can everybody see the power of compounding slide on this? Okay. So simply 1 plus r raised to power n, is the equation for compounding. Now I tell you, most of us, everybody around, I think even if you introspect, even talk to your parents, even for that matter, faculty members, if you discuss among themselves, everybody focuses on return. R is return. How much return does this investment give? Of course, return is important, but nobody talks about this guy N, is sitting on the top, who is exponential in nature. Nobody wants to talk about that. Everybody is focused, all discussions, all financial media, all television, all newspaper, all writings, everything is focused on R. Which is the best investment, or which return is the most important for me, which will give me the best return? I think innumerably, this is the question which comes from everybody. You know, I think people are actually trying to find gold in a copper mine. Actually, honestly, I would tell you, they're just missing the bigger picture. You know, they are just overlooking this smart guy N. N is number of years. If you just put a sum to work for n number of years, you know, it has got capabilities. I think, you know, you can just, if I have to put an analogy, just remember it is just like planting trees. You know, today if you plant trees, 2-3 years, you know, they don't show up, and many of them don't survive. But can you imagine how much they can contribute to the nature? How much they will contribute to the environment over say 5-10 years? I think people just underestimate that, because, you know, we are in a world of immediate gratification. You know, we want immediate results. N is something which is your patience. N is something which is time, and is the most powerful component. I think anything which we learn today, I think time is irreplaceable. You know, if you lose time on investment, for that matter, even in your learning years or job years or business years, I think you can't. Of course, one has to do a lot of things, and certain failures and successes come out of it. But N is the most powerful tool on earth. People just forget that this is the only commodity which we can't produce. You know, you can't produce time, even if you are sitting in Silicon Valley, for that matter, in the best institution of the world, or anywhere. You can't produce time. Return can be produced, trust me, that can happen. But N is irreplaceable. So just focus on N. So if you investments compound over years, you have done the job. You are just home. You know, over a 20-25 year period, even a decent investment with a decent return will compound so much that it is unbelievable. I showed you that 20, 25 and 30 year example. You know, in 20 years it was a big journey. In 30 it was a cakewalk. In 10 years it did, you know, bore you so many fruits that it was unimaginable for you, for the effort you put. Now comes to we come to certain examples of long-term compounding. You know, you will be aware of them, but I will just give you, just for clarity, where compounding happens compulsorily in our society. Well, public provident fund, PPF as it's called. You know, many people open those accounts and put money there. It's a 15-year lock-in product. That means 15 years of compulsory compounding. And that implies that your money is going to surely compound for 15 years. You can't touch that money. So what happens? As a result, you get a great corpus out of your PPF accounts. People don't realize that. They thought that Government of India's PPF account is the best product. No, it is not the best product. It is the compulsory compounding which did the job. Had you been, you know, allowed to take out withdrawals from it, trust me, that compounding is gone. Because 3, 5, 10 years, everybody on an everyday basis has some requirement of money and some commitments to do, some iPhone to buy, or you know, something to invest for, or buy a new home or a new car. You know, everybody has requirements. So this compounding got compulsorily there, so you got rewards. Similarly, employee provident fund, you know, EPF, which many of you will be getting aware of when you join an institution or a business. All faculty members would be aware of that, because they have a EPF deduction happening every month into their salaries. See, again, when you turn 60, this looks to be a greatest product on earth, because all these 20-30 years you did service, you know, it was a compulsory compounding. And it's the magic of compounding which did, not the 7.5%, 8%. Of course, all right, return is okay, it's very nice, but compounding is what has rewarded. And now comes long-term equity investments, where you put monies regularly into mutual funds or equity investments, or into vehicles which may be risky, but, you know, over long run, you know, they will give you a fairer or better return than a normal debt. Debt product is something like EPF or a PPF. So we'll not get into a discussion on debt and equity today. That's very because that is where we'll require a complete 1 hour to discuss that. What is debt and equity? So, but I just want to give you an idea on the power of compounding. So I hope I've been able to make you understand the power of compounding, its importance. I think just remember, N is your friend, and it's an irreplaceable friend. N, you can't replace it. Can't manufacture it, can't modify it, can't change its configuration. Returns can be configured, plus or minus somewhere, some product you can work that on. Okay, now we come to the fourth point. I think I've emphasized enough on compounding. Of course, if there are questions, I think I'll take that up, after the presentation. So now comes question: don't blindly follow authorities in the field of investing. Now, I tell you, yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Ashwini Tiwari?
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt you. As you were talking about power of compounding,
yes.
I have something to say about it, if you permit. Right?
Yes, please, sir.
So
please.
I would like to introduce to you, to my audience, to the viewers, that today's expert is also a chess player, and he is awarded title of Pied Master by World Chess Federation for excelling in field of chess in the year 2006. And he is also a member of Selection Committee, All India Chess Federation, the governing body of chess in India. So see why I have mentioned this in between, because I would like to relate this with power of compounding. I was reading an article on compounding, and I got to know that the person who invented chess was called by a king at that particular time to ask for some reward. And when that person, he was a poor person, he went to the king. Of course, he was very intelligent, as our today's speaker is. So he went to the king and asked for, he told that he has invented this particular game of chess. And the king was very happy that this is a very good game. And he asked him to ask for some reward. Then the person who need any reward, the king insisted that he should have something from my side, because it would be an honor for the king. So by further insistence, person agreed. Said, okay, king, take grains in and pour 1 grain in the first box of the chess, then double the grain in this, then double the grain in the third box, and then likewise up to the end. The king laughed at his decision. The king said, oh, poor man, this is very small thing for me. So he ordered one of his paid that bring the grains, and the paid person brought the grains in a bowl. And there's a photograph also on the internet. They are pouring the grains like 1, then 2, then 4, then 8, then 16. And when they reached around after 32 boxes, it was a midway, the whole grains of that kingdom was finished. And when it was calculated at that time, it was found that power of compounding is too big deal. It's a too big, you can say, technique, that if you want to pour the grains up to the 64th box, it is equivalent to the crop which can be grown in the next 1,000 years. So that is power of compounding. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, so much for such a nice example. I had already, it skipped out of my mind, but you associated well with chess. Thanks a lot for that. Well, that's the real power of compounding. I think. Thanks, Mr. Rajneesh Rao. Okay, now coming to this fourth learning, I think I have another 10 minutes or maybe 12 minutes to finish this. So we come to the fourth point of the lesson. Don't blindly follow authorities in the field of investing. I would like to share with you this example. Why? Because many people are into idolizing. You just find idol. Okay, it's good to have mentors. It is good to have your teachers, faculty to guide you and show you the light, but have an independent thought process, because all times you can't be, it cannot be simulated in the same manner. There can be different variables at work. So, on record, I can tell you, there is a one interview I did in March when the pandemic started, lockdown started. I did one interview with a very reputed newspaper here, Punjab Kesari. They did an online thing. I went on record, and I'll just reiterate that. I mean, if any of you want to look at that, you can go to Punjab Kesari TV or somewhere. You can just search with my name, or you will be able to find somewhere. That don't follow authorities blindly. Okay, what happened in March? I remember March 15. Before that, I'll take you to December. Okay, so this gentleman, Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is one of the most successful hedge fund managers of the world. He heads Bridgewater Associates. That comes out of Connecticut, US. So Ray Dalio said in December, when the pandemic was just on the shores of China and probably silently moving across the globe, he said cash is trash. Interview, he said cash is trash. Basically, what that means is that, if you're having cash today, you're not putting into stock markets or risky assets. He said, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't look like that you have some control of your mind. What happened? February, 2 months after that, the markets crashed across the world. Now, when you follow authority blindly, and his Bridgewater Associates runs very successful hedge funds, which have decades of history, and he's a very successful man. There is no doubt about his credentials. But when you listen to that interview and do that, something based on his words, I think not applying your brain and having an independent thought process, you're already walking into a marshy place. There are chances that you will not be able to control the events when they happen. So markets fell, people lost money like anything, businesses lost money, coupled with lockdowns and spread of corona. I think the real world faced an unprecedented scale of upheaval. There was no example which we could go and learn from. So if you followed Ray Dalio in December, you would have been trash. Actually, you would have been trash, not cash is trash. Now coming to March, now comes the meltdown has happened. Now another set of great guys come out. Paul Krugman, Nobel laureate, okay, Nouriel Roubini, a leading economist of the world, and all my due respect, Warren Buffett, all comes out, sells his airline stocks, tells that world is doomed. Oh my God, world is ending. And if you are going to take that advice with all three guys, 16th March, it's on record. I went on record in that interview, and you can always search, what Paul Krugman said, or Nouriel Roubini said, or what Warren Buffett did in March. Markets across the world are up like what, 30%, 40%, 50%. Now, if you listen to those authorities, you're actually trash because you didn't apply your independent mind. You just followed authorities. So always follow authorities with due respect, but just apply your mind. It's a very important lesson. These are live examples I'm giving you with all due respect to all these people. And also I must tell you, great Warren Buffett is a proponent of value investing. Last 6 months, value investing and growth investing, of course, this discussion can be kept for some other time. What is value investing and growth investing? The difference between the returns for both set of skill set is huge. Value is lagging like anything. Growth is compounding like anything. Now, is their method wrong? I don't mean to offend anybody, but yes, you have to pick and choose. You have to learn. You'll have to apply your mindset, independent mindset, and stick to your plans. Just learn, don't follow. If it was so easy to follow those guys and, make your fortunes in this world, I think there are many good librarians and, people who shoot the videos who can copy them, easily than us, So it doesn't work out that way in real life. Okay, now coming to the fifth one, this I'll go quickly. debt light or cash heavy is the way to go. Debt light, I mean to say, debt is basically when you borrow. Cash heavy means when you have surplus cash. So in these pandemic times, you know, a huge advice comes, see, world grows on debt. Try to understand 90% of the car sales in India happen because of the car finance available. If there was no car finance available, only 10-15% kind of sales would happen on upfront payments for cars. So debt gives growth. Debt gives, gives you a leeway to buy more. So if you have 100, it lets you buy 500 because the 100 has got power to buy 500 because of the borrowing which is available. But all these years, world has been that way. You know, many people, you know, use credit cards to buy personal goods, you know, like music systems, TVs, LEDs, you know, and then, you know, many people use loans from institutions for homes and other things. It's not that debt is bad. You know, I'm not saying there is a differentiation between good debt and bad debt. A good debt is which helps you to grow and is within your limits where you can pay. Bad debt is like, for example, taking a loan and spending on a car or a LED, you know, because they are not going to, you know, if you are not buying an appreciable asset with a loan, it is I think, technical mistake where you're getting into a debt trap. Always try to buy or borrow only for appreciable assets. Home is one thing which everybody in their life wants to build. So borrowing for a home, I think, is justified. Borrowing for buying a car, okay, to an extent, if you intend to repay it quickly, but if you want to run it year on year and you are in a habit of changing cars every 3-4 years, I think does not make sense to me. Otherwise, you know, if you listen to the car companies and the finance companies, they have other point of views, of course, not mine. Okay, so we move to the next learning. Diversification and asset allocation is the key. This is the sixth learning. The point is that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You have to divide your money. It can be into gold, it can be into bank deposits, it can be into PPF, it can be into long-term equity mutual funds, some can be into stocks. The point is you have to diversify. You can't have one set of investments into, you know, for example, if you are bullish about gold, I have learned many people have borrowed to invest in gold in recent rise. You know, I think this is unfortunate. You know, my advice may not go to all of them, but it's really walking on the line. You know, marginally, you know, you will be devastated. You know, if gold was to crash and your you know, equity or capital will be basically you know, in a bad shape. Traditionally, gold has done well, but what I mean to say, borrowing to invest is not a great idea. Asset allocation is like, see, there are many asset classes in the world: equity, gold, art, debt, you know, many other possibilities, international stocks, domestic stocks. So you need to have asset allocation when you invest. So when you are applying that power of compounding, try to distribute your assets. You know, keep emergency funds in banks, FDs, you know, your savings, which are long term, put it into maybe equity mutual funds or equities for long run, and something which you foresee for next 2-3 years, please put them into you know, debt or maybe fixed deposits or PPF or those kind of things. You know, that is the way. Now comes in times of crisis, human innovation reaches pinnacle. I think this is again coming back to the human side. I think it is a crisis of unprecedented level what has happened in last 6 months, and we are still going through it. But one thing I must reassure you, that if you go back to history, I was listening to one of the CEOs of a company in April. You know, I think this is the key. One thing I learned, I don't know what 5 things she said, but one thing I remember from that webinar was that human innovation reaches peak. It has reached its peak many times when Ebola happened, H1N1 happened. We as human beings are not genetically fixed, you know, in the sense we have got capability, creativity to take care, modify things and adapt to it. That is how, you know, we started as Homo sapiens. And, you know, if you go that tree till today, human beings have been evolving as a species also. So today, you know, if you see across the world, we also have a lot of companies who are into innovation, but US has the biggest chunk of innovation in the world. And look at the US markets. Look at the US products. One product we are right now using, Zoom, which was not existing in our offices, you know, say 6 months back. Today, it's part and parcel of our life. Similarly, you know, virtual education, you know, I think, I don't know, that Dr. Baga will be able to tell better. If we have put learning management systems in place, you know, LMS, where the cloud takes care of the paperwork of the exams and all those things, I think, you know, these are the times where nobody had thought, because it was easy to give, you know, exams online, you know, offline, sorry, in the classrooms. Nobody thought of online exams. Nobody thought of online lectures, you know, but this is the reality. But human beings have evolved so quickly. See, you can do everything. I'm sitting in my office giving you a presentation. Virtually, it was possible, but practically, I would have come to the institute and delivered a lecture in the auditorium to you. But this is the reality. So human innovation reaches pinnacle in times of crisis. Already is. There is work on vaccines. Okay, I'm not authority to tell you when vaccine comes, but so many other innovations have happened. Look at online sales of various retail things, of various other things. You know, everything is moving. I tell you, I was reading an article, Hyundai, you know, which sells its cars through dealerships, has now huge online portal where you can customize a car, and they got almost 2,000 or maybe 3,000 bookings over the net. A car company selling without dealership, I think it was never imaginable 6 months back. So in times of crisis, human innovation reaches pinnacle. This is a point I would like to convey. And last point, you know, I would like to give it to you. Quality becomes expensive and cheap becomes cheaper. See, remember, you know, good things, they are expensive. And times like these, they will become more expensive. Try to understand that. There is a difference between quality and cheap. I'll give you one example. There are many companies in the market. Like look at Reliance Industries. You know, Reliance Industries in this lockdown, every given week, they have sold out massive stakes to foreigners. In normal course, I can't imagine a company of originating from India doing that. In pandemic times, they have come out so strongly. The stock is rising. Their company, please, no recommendations. Please don't take it as any recommendation. I'm just giving you an example. Don't go and buy out Reliance, okay? I'm just giving you an example that a company like Reliance has moved to almost all-time high price of its level. The quality becomes expensive. And there are companies like GMR, you know, GVK, you know, who are bankrupt. You know, GVK recently sold its Mumbai airport. You know, if you have been to Mumbai airport, it is one of the crown jewels of India. Apart from Delhi, Mumbai is one of the nicest airports India has. And GVK, which was a proud owner of that airport, has to sell it off to Adani. Now, I think this tells you that quality becomes expensive and cheap becomes cheaper. So that is the message you must learn. Don't try to find cheap things in times like these. In demanding times, good things won't come cheap. Cheap things will come very cheap and more cheap later. So you will repent. Let's say you try to find and invest into something, a cheap idea, you know, look at the leaders. For example, to give you an answer, you know, HDFC Bank is one of the leading banks. You know, it has got the net profit of HDFC Bank, you know, is more than the entire profit produced by a public sector undertaking banks. How is that? You know, 60% market share they have, public sector bank, and one bank has more profit than all those banks. I think it's shocking. So quality comes very expensive. HDFC Bank, never you buy at a cheap price, but there are many public sector banks you will be able to find at low prices. People have been trying that for last many years. Cheap is becoming cheaper all the time. So no recommendations on stock, but just to give you a fair idea in terms of real life and also stocks, because stocks, I believe, are reflection of the real economy. They see further than the current economy. I believe so. Markets can go up and down, but they have tendency to discount the things. So with that, I come to the end of the presentation and would be glad to answer any questions for next 10 minutes if there are any.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a knowledgeable session. I hope you have touched all the points that are very relevant for investments during these pandemic times, and our students must have learned a lot from this particular session. Sir, we have a question in the Q&A box. It is from Karman Walia. Should we focus on more risky investments and look for high returns during these pandemic times?
Okay. Well, Karman, I think not only about pandemic times, but generally speaking, when you are younger, the logic says that you can do more risky investments. You've got capacity to hold them longer. I would suggest instead of going into independent stocks because they can be risky and require a lot of research, go into portfolios because there your risk will be protected. Go into, like, for example, a mutual fund, equity mutual fund. You can go with a focused mutual fund, that kind of a thing, where you can reduce your relative risk, portfolio risk, but still, you will be able to participate into the markets in a reasonable manner, equity investments. So don't try to increase your risk. See what happened last 6 months. Demat accounts in India have opened like anything. People think sitting at home buying stocks is going to make them money. I think this is all fallacy. It's not going to happen. They're going to burn their fingers. If not now, in future. If somebody has not burnt it yet, it's better that you take your money and put it safe. Otherwise you're going to burn at any other point. The point is that it's not about focusing on pandemic times. Your returns should not be focused on pandemic times. You want to create extra return because it's a pandemic time. I think it's not a great idea. It should be part of your overall plan. You should be investing with your long-term horizons. If you are in your early 20s, I tell you, I've already gave you the key. If you simply pick up any mutual fund in the country and do 25 years of SIP, even if you pick the worst one, trust me, even if you pick the worst one, you're going to be better off than anything. So this is the kind of example I can give you. And luckily, if you are in an average one or maybe average and better, I think the compounding is going to be phenomenal. So you should be clearly focused on N. Again, don't come to R. I already emphasized everybody wants to focus on R. R is not the right focus area. You should focus on N. You're young, you can invest for a number of years. Just simply keep on accumulating. See, I'll give you one thought. Declines are temporary, advances are permanent. Human race is going to advance. I think nobody can deny that. I think there can be arguments, but as human race, we have been developing years and years, in terms of all kinds of advancement in technology and other things. So companies are going to grow. Old companies are going to be replaced by new companies. High-tech companies are going to be replaced by some other type of companies. So the point is just focus on compounding, not on returns, and not specifically to pandemic times.
So next question is from our faculty Dean, Dr. Sandeep Ranjan. Sir, is it advisable to buy high coupon rate and having good rating NCDs from the secondary market?
There are two things I would say, Mr. Ranjan. The point is that high coupon.
It is mentioned
would be
in case if
there.
it is missed NFO allotment.
Sorry.
It is the question. The further it is highlighted ki in case if I miss NFO allotment, then it is advisable to buy high coupon rate and having good rating and NCD from the secondary market.
Well, I will tell you one, the concept of rating, I think it is a bit farce. I think one example I can give you, DHFL, Dewan Housing and Finance Limited. It had a AAA rating. and it collapsed. Many people are still struggling for their initial money, what to talk of interest or coupons out of it. So I think one, when you are allocating money to a NCD, I think you have better be sure about the existing of that company, because NCDs are generally 5-10 years. Is that company going to be in existence in 10 years? I think that is the biggest question you should ask. Even the biggest of names, ILFNS, DHFL, which have happened in the past, they were big institutions, and they have just collapsed, and they are not able to even service their debt, what to talk about initial principles. So I think, one, chasing coupon or yields on an NCD, one, you are taking, you're not diversifying your risks. You are actually getting into risk. Rather, you can go, I would say, if you have to be conservative, you can go into a fixed deposit. But still, if you have to invest for coupon or something, go with a good debt mutual fund or something where your money is divided. And also, you don't have to see the price or monitor the things everyday basis, because let's say you buy a AAA rated NCD today, one, you will not be able to track it every quarter on quarter. And secondly, there is a fund manager to do that, and eventually, if at all a hit comes to NCD, at least your certain percentage of capital will go at risk, not at 100% risk it will go. So that DHFL and that kind of dilemma has already exquisited to us, that already in our times, getting into too far-fetched into coupon hunting is not a great idea. I would ask you to refrain from that. Choose a better debt mutual fund, or a mutual fund which has has a highest category of rating papers available in the portfolio. Yes,
so next question is, how can we measure diversification in portfolio?
Measuring diversification. Well, I think a very simple tool is you put that into Excel and just simply calculate the percentages. For example, if you have 100 rupees, you have put 20 rupees in fixed deposits, 20 rupees in debt mutual funds, and let's say 10% in gold, and say 50% in XYZ instruments, let's say equity or non-equity or whatever way. You just simply put that in Excel sheet, do a pie chart. I think you will be able to know the percentages. Now, the problem is how much allocation, you need to have into each of these. I think that requires a skill. And for that, you need someone's advice, expertise. But in general, I would say a thumb rule which goes, 100 minus your age. If you are a very young age, 100 minus your age should be your equity exposure in those years. For example, if there is a 20-year student, even out of the 100 rupee he earns in future, even if he saves 70 to 80 rupees into equities and 20 rupees into safety, and with each passing year keeps on reducing that equity contribution, I think that's a fair idea, because he's into earning years. Tomorrow, if at all markets come down, he'll be able to, still, hold it, because he has got time horizon in front of him. But yes, if you are married to a person and you have family and children, then of course the concept goes a bit different. You have to be a bit more conservative. But I've given you a thumb rule, but in general, it's always better to have advice rather than doing it on your own. Or you can just Google and even research, but then again, I won't ask you to become a Google doctor, because if it was that easy, Google would be a solution for everything. Professionals won't be required. Humans are required, and they will be required in future.
Absolutely right, Ashwini. I think one question is from Gaganpur. I think your classmate, because it is representing Gagan Kapoor, Jalandhar North. If I am right, he is Gaganpur, your classmate, and I think we met in our alumni meet, and definitely they visited as well the campus in one of our competition, business plan competition.
Yes.
So I think the question is, can you suggest percentage wise for investment?
Percentages wise for investment.
Can you suggest percentage wise for investment? So I think it is just similar to the previous how to measure the diversity.
Well, generally speaking, I would say for a certain client who has who is debt free and has a wealth available to him, generally I follow a 70-30 rule. 70% debt and 30% equity. Rest, of course, it has to be customized according to the client needs. But in general, I believe, a 70-30, logically, I'll tell you what's the logic. over a 5 years, the 70 becomes 100. Okay. So your capital is in place in 5 years, even if that 30 is risky. So the point is, as a human being, we have a bias that if our capital is there, we are not bothered about returns too much. So if your capital grows 100, 70 to 100 in 5 years, the 30 can be kept risky. And that risk you can take for 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, immaterial. That's not a problem because you'll be able to hold because your capital, the invested capital is 100. So that is my key, advice I can give you. I mean, a general for anybody, like it is applicable for you and many other people, whosoever is managing their own wealth, that this is generally a decent rule with a 5-year horizon. And if your horizon is lesser, then you have to increase the debt and decrease the equity component. But some aggressive clients, I have, who are even at 50-50, but that's okay because they are younger, they are into earning years and they can afford those risks. So little bit of adaptation has to be done. One rule fits all cannot happen. But yes, a general advice I'm telling you, I mean, I believe this is the basic, broadly correct area we should look at. Because at a person who has created wealth, he just needs to preserve and grow it. He doesn't have to strive for wealth creation. When you are younger, like when you join you're in early part of your age, you actually want to increase your wealth. You can take more risks. You can create wealth by investing more aggressively into equities. So equities are path to wealth creation, but that is a riskier path. A riskier path, higher risk means higher rewards. That's the equation. I think you as proponent of finance, I think you will agree with me. With higher risk comes the higher returns. That also answers my question. When a person chases a high coupon NCD, it implies you are taking a higher amount of risk. The rating, you can say it's good, but somebody who is offering me higher rate than the market, he's definitely riskier than what the market is.
So absolutely right, Ashwini. And Gagan, really nice to see you at this platform. Right now I can't see you, but right now I can feel ki Gagan is with us, and definitely we will interact later on as well. So Ashwini, I was thinking at this age group means when students, they after +2, they are starting with their studies, that may be the BTech, that may be the BBA, BCA, BCom, or after their graduation, they are going for MBA, MCA or any other program. So my viewpoint, it is whatever you are saving, that the same amount you are earning. So first of all, I think in the initial stages, all students, my request to all students, ki out of your pocket money, whatever it is being assigned by your parents, start developing the habit of little bit saving. I am giving you one example. My son he's in hostel, and approximately 15,000 is the pocket money, 15,000 to 20,000 depending upon the circumstances. We have experimented a lot. Means after a week, sometimes 3,000 per week or 4,000 per week was to be given, or or sometimes the monthly was given, so they were able to spend within 20 days, and then again we are supposed to deposit some amount to my son. So then we experimented on daily basis. I'm going to give you 500, but you are supposed to save at least 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 50 or 100. So the way I think now he's able to save more than 20,000 over a period of last 3 years by experimenting this. So similarly, in case first, if we are able to go by how small savings to be done, and then ultimately converting, and then definitely your advices or your suggestions are useful. Then portfolio selection and something high risky, low risky, debt, equity or something, it is to be done. So my request to all students, at least have one lecture with your finance faculty, how to develop this saving, and what are the different techniques or the tactics to be used, and then further how you can start your portfolio. So that will be a wonderful thing. So
well, sir,
what
I
is your
can
take
just
on,
add to that.
on this?
Sir, I'll just add to that. Sorry, I interrupted. That, I think there's a lot of research on this subject. I believe, automated or compulsory savings are the best way for human beings. Because see, if I leave a decision, if I just take an example, if I just leave a decision to someone that, okay, you save at your will, that was not going to happen. You'll have to persist, chase, and make it happen. And how many times you can do that? I think it will be successful once or twice. But the best way to do that is to have a automated or compulsory savings. And one example is systematic investment plans in mutual funds, for that matter, because they force you to every month you have to invest. It is just like a healthy EMI. I think people are used to buy a television, used to buying a television and paying installments for that. Now just imagine, instead of paying installments for that television, if you are paying those installments for your saving, I think that is a much better way. Or compulsory savings you do, I think that's a much better way to psychologically or by human standards to force the habit of saving. Because there is enough research in the world that, you know, if we leave it to discretion, you know, discretion allows lot of room where people tend to postpone the decisions. So I think if you do compulsory, you know, you will just treat it as like a healthy EMI and let that come to your account every month. You will not take that cash from the ATM because you know this is going to hit your bank next week. So you're going to let that money get saved. I think that is the best form in initial years. I think when you are mature, of course, you will be deliberately taking decisions to save.
So it means absolutely wonderful advice, Ashwini. And I think all students, they right in the beginning of their studies, they should start, that may be started from even 100, 500, 1000 per month, like this at least, so that
Yes.
by having the compulsory saving or
That's
by
right.
having the systematic plan, definitely they can
That's
excel.
right. They can
So
start
that
with a
would be a
recurring
good.
deposit in bank. They can start with mutual fund SIP. There are multiple things available, you know, to do that.
So one more question, I think, from one of our student, Namit Jain. Sir, we don't want to take any kind of a risk. Then in which area we should invest?
I would say I can only give you, because see, this also requires a complete education to give you one complete lecture on all this, you know, because I could not touch the entire aspect of it. But I must tell you, if you don't take risks, the risk is the inflation, which you don't know. You know, it's eating your money every day. You don't realize it. You know, it's just like diabetes inside the body. You think you're healthy, but every day you're deteriorating. So your 100 rupees today loses technically value by 5% every year. Long-term inflation in our country has been 5% at least. And for certain living standards, it is way higher. So if you don't save into risky assets, you know, how are you going to get compensated? Generally, interest rates and inflation, they are almost always in line. You can't think of making inflation beating returns through fixed income investments. That can't happen long run. Today, like for example, today if you get a 5.5% fixed deposit in a bank, inflation is 3-4%. Okay, today you are making real return. 1.5% you are positive on return. But trust me, there have been times of 8-9% inflation and fixed deposits are fetching just 7%. You are negative 2%. How will you get compensated? So you must understand, factor in the inflation, which is going to be a silent assassin or the killer into your returns and as well as your purchasing power. So for that matter, certain amount of risk is paramount. You have to take it. I think accept it or not accept it. That is the reality of life. There is no free lunch. Just having money, and you know, if you were just to keep it in a safe in your home, trust me, 20 years after, if you open it up, it will be useless.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the concept of time value of money, definitely it is also there. So I think, Kamal, whether any other questions are available or
I
I
think
don't.
we can conclude. I would request Dr. Jinesh Arya, Dean, School of Management Studies, to formally thank Mr. Ashwani and Director Sir for joining today.
Respected Dr. Rajesh Bagga, our director, our speaker for today's session, Mr. Ashwini Tiwari, my dear fellow colleagues and dear students. I would like to formally thank Mr. Ashwini Tiwari for putting this topic in such a nice manner that our young generation may be able to grab the content and would be able to follow the device. And he has put every aspect such as emergency fund, risk coverage, proper insurance, medical insurance, investment planning, and of course the power of compounding has been elaborated in such a nice manner that we would be able to remember this in our lifetime. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Rajesh Bhagat. Thank you, Mr. Arya, and entire faculty and students. Thank you for your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ashwini. Bye. See you.
Bye-bye, sir. Bye. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Students can now move to their classes. We have a 10 minutes break. Then we can start up with our next session. So thank you so much for joining today. See you.